Hey guys, it's Stasha Erickson. I hope you're all doing well today. It is February 21st of 2019, and I was asked for a specific request for a video today. My videos have been very sporadic over the past couple of years, and I've been making videos again lately, a lot of educational ones. And yesterday I made a video about the origins of demonology and exorcisms and things like that. And I mentioned that I was taking a little bit of focus off of Mandela effect for a while. And then a lot of my Mandela effect subscribers said, can you please bring at least one Mandela effect video to us per week if you're going to do a lot of educational stuff. So I have to bring you guys what you want. So for those of you who don't know, in 2016, I found out about the Mandela effect through one of my clients. And I was very busy at the time and didn't really have a chance to start looking into this phenomena. And then multiple people kept reaching out to me, and I thought, okay, I really need to take this seriously. So I started researching the Mandela effect, and within about 24 to 48 hours, I was hooked. I was researching night and day and night, and had a stack of notes like this big with just effects and changes and residual evidence and stuff like that. So I found out about the Mandela effect September 2016, and then by July of 2017, so just about 10 months later, I had written and published an entire book about the Mandela effect. And it's really big, it's 350 pages. And the only reason it only took me 10 months is that I had a lot of help from the Mandela effect community. Every video that I made on the Mandela effect, people would leave comments and leave their own stories and have more questions. So I basically kind of compiled everybody's research from YouTube comments and my own research outside of that, and compiled this whole book and included everybody's YouTube comments and things like that in the book. But at the beginning of the book, I had to kind of explain how the Mandela effect started, how the origins of it started. And of course, I was directed to Fiona Broome and her research. Now, there's many other people that try to claim credit for the Mandela effect, et cetera, et cetera. But she was the first person to give it the name, the Mandela effect. Now, she had a blog on her website where she posted a poll asking people if they remembered Nelson Mandela dying in the 80s or if they remembered him dying more recently. And so what I did was I compiled all of the comments from the first ever Mandela effect question post from Fiona's site. Now, if you scroll back on this channel, you'll see in my Mandela effect playlist that I've been slowly reading this book to you guys. Now, over the past year and a half, I only was able to get to page 19 because as I'm reading it, I'm giving you guys more feedback and more comments. But I wanted to at least finish reading to you guys chapter 2. Chapter 1 I've already read, which is my own Mandela effect journey. And then chapter 2 is literally called The Mandela Effect. So I've read most of it. And again, this is all the stuff coming from Fiona Broome's blog and all of her subscribers that jumped into the discussion at the first time. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up where I left off. And I think the last time I made a video about this was like maybe October of last year. It's been a long time. So I'll just pick up where I left off. And basically, these are all people responding to Fiona's post that said, I'll just go page 15. She basically said, this is the first of several polls I'm using to find patterns in alternate memories. If you recall Nelson Mandela's death before December 2013, I'll hope you'll remember or provide a thoughtful guess about the year in the 1980s you think he died. Please just vote once and for just 1 year. The default is remembering his death in 2013. That is included for those who want to register that they don't have an alternate Mandela memory. And she goes on and on and on. So I've read several pages of people's comments, and it's just really cool to hear their first reaction because this really was like the first time anybody used the term Mandela effect, and it's really raw and real responses because this was not a topic trending on the internet yet. There wasn't a lot of people who already knew about it, who already had, a perceived memory or kind of knew the basics of the Mandela effect. So it's really interesting to hear people's reactions for the first time. So I'll start on page 20 of chapter 2. And I laid out all the comments exactly how they were on Fiona's site. So whatever your little moniker was on Fiona's site, and I even have Fiona's responses where it says Miss Fiona. Okay, so Terry said, I saw this subject posted on another site with a link to this site. My mom and I also both remember Mandela dying in prison. Fab said, I was very young at the time, but I am 100% certain that Mandela passed away while in prison. I recall all the press dedicated to his life and memory so vividly that when news that he was being released came over the airwaves, I was so stunned and immediately went searching for answers only to find out I wasn't alone. I agree that there must be timeline ripple effects occurring that some of us are not aware of. I've had gaps of missing time and dreams so real I can still recall how things felt when I touched them. Glad I'm not alone. And this is the thing I'm learning. I'm in a psychology degree right now, and I realize that memory isn't just like thoughts. It has a lot to do with sights, smells, tastes. You know, if you smell something from your childhood, it brings you back to that memory. That's other ways that you can kind of prove memory. It can't always just be the images or the thoughts that are in your head. It has a lot to do with the environment, the taste, the smells, everything. So that really helps solidify a lot of these people's memories, that it's not just something they, remember in their mind, but they can taste it, touch it, smell it, remember what clothing they were wearing that day. That's how you know that you can like triple confirm memories. It's not just, oh, I misremembered that. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll continue. Now, Cassia said, interesting on so many levels. I am in the same boat in regard to Mandela. Kate said, this site is freaking me out. My friend Mikey and I used to talk about the Mandela memory all the time because we remembered him dying in prison. We used to talk about jumping timelines and we believed it because things got different for us both. But we never talked about it with anyone else because of how insane it sounds. I have since then looked for something about it and I found this website. I just can't believe this. And that's the other thing too. I'm probably going to make a video soon about Mandela effect and mental health. That's everybody's first excuse when they don't agree or don't see the Mandela effect. They say, oh, you must be crazy. Oh, I've heard that I'm crazy so many times. It's actually laughable at this point. But there is some research behind Mandela effect in people that have mental health disorders. It doesn't mean that everybody who has a diagnosis of a mental health disorder sees the Mandela effect, but a majority of people who have some type of diagnoses, there's over 600 different diagnoses and disorders right now that exist in psychological research. So it could be anxiety disorder, schizophrenia, it could be depression, it could be ADHD, it could be autism, Asperger's, even PTSD people are seeing it as well. So I think I might want to do a poll someday for people that see the Mandela effect to see if they have what's perceived as a mental health disorder. One of the reasons I'm studying psychology right now is I believe that mental health is completely misunderstood. I believe that schizophrenic people are really able to see into the invisible world. They are the clients that fascinate me the most, the patients that I want to work with the most, because we're always told that if we see into the invisible world, we're crazy. If we hear things or see things that other people don't see, you're schizophrenic, you're crazy. That's why the last two videos I made before this, if you haven't checked them out, it's about spirit attachments and demonology. Since the beginning of time, if anybody said they saw or heard something that other people didn't see, they were automatically labeled as crazy. But I think there's more to that. It's so passive to just call someone crazy. It's such a cop-out, and there's no weight behind it. It's so easy to point the crooked finger, as my dad says. You're pointing one at someone else, but three more back at yourself. So think about when you call people crazy. So for those that doubt the Mandela effect, you don't have to see it, but you should at least respect others who do and understand that there may be things that other people can see that you can't. Okay, now I'll continue. Now Miss Fiona Broom chimed in and said, I remember Mandela having died in prison, but I was very young then, and I don't remember the exact event. But an anniversary of his death, it was all over the TV. They showed footage of him alive and some funeral footage too. Now, I wasn't very old, but they were talking about his death. Now, Kate said, my friend, who I often talk about this kind of thing 2 years ago, pointed out to me tonight that Nelson Mandela and Billy Graham were born in the same year. And it was just last year that Billy Graham, what everyone said, died again. He literally died last year, right before I was doing a radio interview in Philadelphia. Billy Graham had died, and everybody had to remember him dying years ago. So that was another Mandela effect that popped into this book since I published it. Now, Seaman said, I also thought Mandela died in prison, and a couple of my friends also share this memory. And I think this blog, I'm trying to think of when she started this. She started it in February of 2013, the poll about Mandela's death, because that was after he died again. But this website started, I have all this in the book as well. It started in 2009. So this went back a while, 10 years ago. I can't believe it's 2019. Yeah, 10 years ago she started this website. So it took a long time to kind of become a trending topic and for the world to find out about it. Now, J. Ezra Powell said, I recall the assassination of Nelson Mandela around 1983 to 1985. I was a child at the time and attended a school where the majority of students were Black. I remember the next morning that we all wore black ribbons and had an assembly. I recall the TV news showing crowds of people as there was a parade in Mandela's honor. And while riding in the back of the car, he was shot and killed. He had been released from prison and apartheid was ending. Now he lives and my memories are wrong, it would seem. Or are they? Did I experience another reality? I also think it's crazy if you start scanning all the new series that come out on Netflix and other television shows and networks, that the topics of parallel realities and living in a simulation are really, really becoming popular. They're starting to bleed into almost every television show that I see. Even if people are just joking about it, it's really becoming common knowledge for people to assume that perhaps their reality isn't what they thought it was. And that's a huge step for us, because a few years ago, if people talked about parallel realities, even myself included, I would have been like, yeah, right. We live on this earth. I've always lived on this earth. My trees outside are the same trees they've always been. But until you take the time to open your mind and do the research and really learn a little bit about science and physics and stuff like that, you realize it's a real possibility. Now, Catherine said, I remember a lot of these memories. Nelson Mandela and Billy Graham both died in the 90s from her memory. Amy said, I too remember news reports stating that Nelson Mandela died, and that was in the 1980s. I distinctly remember the television Channel 5 news broadcast in Boston, where the TV news broadcaster, Natalie Jacobson, wow, this is detailed, she even knows the broadcaster's name, stated that he died. It was the main story during the 6 p.m. news that day. Then I was stunned, startled, and confused years later when I heard another news report stating that Nelson Mandela just died. I had a sickening feeling when I heard the news report the second time, because it was so unsettling to me. Because how can you remember something that is completely inconsistent with the facts that are presented at a later time? I was relieved when I heard that other people also remember a news report from many years earlier stating that he had died in prison. Then I knew I wasn't losing my mind. But this phenomenon just fascinates me. I wish someone could explain how this dual timeline really works. My conclusion is that there must be parallel universes. Now, Stephen Stockton said, a friend and I have discussed many times the Mandela death. We both remember the same thing in detail. I think this is an insight into a significant event. It could be a misquote from the media, which has been suggested before, but no one has owned up to it. No retractions, nothing. It could be a natural event in the fabric of space-time, a hiccup, so to speak, or as we have conjectured, a correction. But yes, dare I say it, a time traveler. Oh, he's saying, or as we have conjectured, a correction by, yes, dare I say it, a time traveler. So Stephen believes a time traveler may have corrected the course of history, much like in Back to the Future. If you travel back in time, you change one little thing, it causes a ripple effect. Now, it's the internet, get over it, is his other response. Basically, people say, it's the internet, get over it. I have heard that a number of countries have been experimenting with time travel, and it is possible a correction was made to redirect the situation, probably unknown to us other 99%. Now, Will said, yes, 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 Mandela died in prison. Alex posted this fascinating update about Nelson Mandela. I live in South Africa, and Nelson Mandela was admitted to hospital last week. Here is the really interesting part. 3 weeks ago, a Dakota DC-3 flew to Kunu, where he lives with his medical team aboard. The female pilot failed her flying license, and her instructor gave the Air Force strict orders never to test her again, and she has a zero ability to fly. Anyway, 3 weeks ago, she flew the medical team to Kunu and totaled the DC-3 on landing. Luckily, everyone survived. 2 weeks later, or 2 weeks ago, another Dakota DC-3 flew to Kunu, and this time it crashes in the Drakensberg Mountains, killing all on board. These weekly flights were said to be for Mandela's health checkups. But when the second DC-3 crashed, killing everyone, the media immediately denied that any medical personnel was on board. Last week, Saturday, Mandela was admitted to hospital for routine tests at one military in Pretoria. Tuesday, the media said that he had a lung infection from TB that he contracted during his 27-year prison stay. Wednesday, we were told he was at the heart clinic in Pretoria and that he was never at one military. On Friday, he was supposed to be discharged, and today we were told he had gallstones removed. So there's yet another twist. Someone found a news story from around that time that he had been sick and been getting procedures done, and then apparently he dropped dead. So that was very, very strange. Now, Fiona ends the blog, the very last post. She ended up closing the blog for comments after this last comment from Will. That was the very last one ever. And she just ended it with, do you remember Nelson Mandela's death in the 1980s or 1990s or at some other time before 2013? So that's where her blog post ended. And I'll just read to you my conclusion here as I wrapped up chapter 2. So I said, in a nutshell, this is how the Mandela effect was born. Now you can see that this is much more than simply one woman misremembering an event from history. Wouldn't you agree? I am baffled by the variety of responses from Fiona's blog. The memory of a human being can often be infallible, so there must be more to this story. Fiona argues that collective memories that appear to be mistakes could be explained by the existence of parallel universes that can interact with each other. What is captivating about these Mandela effects is that nobody is entirely resistant to them. They just haven't yet connected to the effect that has moved them enough to see the change. That's what I call the smoking gun. Everybody needs their smoking gun that opens their mind and goes, oh my God, it is real. Now you will keep running crosswise over ones you have been confident of your entire life. And then one day they will just change. I have seen changes happen right before my very own eyes. I will continue to share my experiences throughout this book, but the true focus here is the endless amount of research that is mounting each day. I will also continue to share the personal stories that I have collected from other Mandela effect experiencers as this book unfolds. Another day, another effect, as I like to say. One thing we must keep in mind before I present these clues to you is that the media controls observations and our perceptions of reality. Human beings often misremember small, seemingly insignificant points of interest. We say things incorrectly, like song lyrics, and often mispronounce people's names. As we rehash things mistakenly to ourselves, we miscorrect answers on exams and never return to locate the right response. If anything, it guides us towards believing that we are all misinformed, continually overlooking little points of interest as well as whole groupings of occasions. Although you should understand your faculties to get by in life, they are not dependable. So this is me being objective about my own mind. Now this brings us to the confabulation theory. The theory is that we are an uneducated population who were never properly instructed as children and are simply misremembering things incorrectly. Although this is the only explanation that the internet can provide for this phenomenon right now, mostly Wikipedia calls it that, We are going to get much deeper into the numerous theories that may be causing this effect as this research project unfolds. You will be flabbergasted at some of the various approaches that may be causing these changes. So get ready to open your mind. Okay, now that was the end of chapter 2 of the Mandela Effect. The book is called The Mandela Effect, Everything is Changing. I have some of your customer reviews back here, and I have a little explanation of the effect. And again, we're just on page 25. There's a long way to go. I've got lots of photos and diagrams and skeletal things. I got Bible changes. So I will definitely take the time to chime in some more and continue to share this work with you guys. I have a GoFundMe campaign in the description box on YouTube below. All these books that I do are self-published by the Mandela Effect community. I don't have a publishing deal. I did shop the Mandela Effect to a few publishers, and this was in 2016, 2017, so nobody was really ready to touch it with a 10-foot pole. So I just figured, I was also worried that if I gave this to a publishing company, they would want to change everything and they would not have the real comments and the real responses from people, that they'd want to turn it more into like a novel, a story, a science fiction book. And this is all research. Like the entire book is just research, diagrams, because I wanted this to be taken seriously. And again, even by the end of this book, I don't explain what causes it because we still don't know, but it is really up to everybody's interpretation. So book 2, so far I've written like 2 chapters. It's taken me a really long time because of my psychology degree. But book 2 is mostly focused on pop culture stuff. Lyric changes, movie changes, cartoon changes, anything, you know, we've seen on the media, historical changes, geographical changes. It's just as important as this first book. This first book is very foundational, very, you know, explaining the origins of it. And I do go in alphabetical order. It starts with the Mandela Effect explanation, but then I go alphabetical here, where I have, let's see, anatomy changes, anatomical changes, Bible changes, and then it got so long I had to wrap it up and add some theories and a conclusion. But after Bible changes, we go into cartoon changes, deaths, geographical changes. I have my whole list for book 2 is also alphabetical. So if people want to go to the GoFundMe campaign and donate $5, $10, whatever you can afford, I will put your name in the dedication section. I did that for book 1 also. Every single person who donated, even like $1, I have everybody's name in here at the beginning. And yeah, it's the whole dedication section, everybody who was part of it. Yeah, I can include your name. And if you have any of your own Mandela Effect stories you'd like to submit to the book, I would like to get the book done this year. I've been putting out 1 book a year for the past 3 years. I put out 2 books in 2016 and 1 in 2017. So I needed a little break, but I really think it's important we get book 2 out. Again, I don't have a whole lot of time. So if it's February now, I think I can realistically get it released by Christmas of this year. So if you're interested in the Mandela Effect, you want to help support book 2, just go to the GoFundMe link below and leave a donation of whatever kind, and you can message me directly through GoFundMe. You can leave comments on YouTube or on Facebook or anywhere you like, and I would love to get as much feedback from the community as possible. This is a very interesting phenomenon. We still don't know who, why, what, or where, or when is happening and causing this. So until we get to the bottom of it, I will never give up on researching the Mandela Effect. And again, if you're interested in this book, I have it in paperback, and I also have it on ebook. Amazon.com sells the book. You can go to my website, stashaerickson.com, which is also in the description box below. And I have a books tab there that shows the other books that I've released. I have one I've released about MK Ultra and animal communication. But there you can purchase the books, or just go on Amazon and look for the Mandela Effect, Everything is Changing. Or you can Google my name, Stasha Erickson, and it will pull up the other titles. And hopefully this book will help you as much as it's helped other people. I actually got a really crazy email about a month ago. I just got to reading it yesterday. And one of my very old friends from growing up in like junior high, high school, he got in a little trouble and was locked up for not very long, but he got locked up for a little while for some trouble. And it was funny, when he was in there, his cellmate and him got to talking about conspiracy theories and stuff like that. And so somehow his cellmate came up and said, "Have you ever heard of the Mandela effect?" And then my friend said, "Oh yeah, I actually have a really old friend from childhood who's written a book about it." And the guy goes, "Wait a minute, I have a book about the Mandela effect." And he goes, "No way, no way." So he pulls out of his drawer, and he pulls this book out, and he goes, "No way, that's my homegirl. That's Stasha. I've known her forever." And he's like, and his cellmate didn't believe him. He thought he was full of crap. And he goes, "No, no, no, that's been my friend forever. How weird." So this book has even made it into prisons. People are reading it, and all over the world. They've actually had people from Japan. Last month, I sold like 20 copies of the book in Japan. So I've never really advertised it. I've never marketed it. I've just made a few YouTube videos here and there. And it's just so funny how the effect is just spreading all over the world. So I hope that's a really good sign. And I hope that all this research wasn't wasted. And I hope people would just really take it seriously and not think that everybody's just misremembering. It wouldn't even make sense that such a large majority of people would all misremember such specific details. Okay, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this Mandela effect video. I will be back with more educational videos. If you haven't checked out the last few videos I've made on my channel, they're more educational in nature, but they're really, really, really helpful. I do link in the Mandela effect with things like 5G, demonic possession, spirit attachments. There's a lot of deep stuff that's coming ever since it was coming out of the earth, ever since the Mandela effect happened. If CERN or one of these places did open a portal, that does allow other beings to come in and out, in and out. And that would affect not only the way we see things and perceive things, but it could also affect our physical being, our spiritual being, and our mental health. So definitely check out some of those educational videos. I think they're very informative, and they're also very relevant to all of these topics. Okay, guys, sending so much love and peace from Norway, and I will be back with more. Bye-bye.